Welcome, one and all, to Pacific414 Episode Review. I am your host, Mike.
I'm the dude.
I'm Batman.
I'm your Huckleberry.
I am Boba Fett.
And tonight, I will be giving you my review for Chapter 7 of the Book of Boba Fett, which was titled In the Name of Honor. So, let me just check a few things here that weren't quite cooperating, but they look to be cooperating now. So let's go ahead and get underway with this review for the 7th and final episode of the season for this Mandalorian spinoff, or as I've been calling it, and I know a lot of other people have been calling it, they've been calling it The Mandalorian Season 2.5. So just adjusting the lighting here. There you go. So, In the Name of Honor begins in the remains of Madame Garza's little casino, little spa, and it's Boba Fett, Fennec Shand, the Power Rangers, aka the mods, the Voltron Force, and also, as they're beginning to talk, Din Djarin shows up, and Din Djarin lets them know that the people of Mos Pagos, now known as Freetown, are willing to help, free of charge, of course. And Boba Fett agrees to those terms. After all, wouldn't you? You have people that are willing to help, and they're willing to do it for free. I know I would. So they're all talking. They're trying to come up with a strategy, and Fennec Shand is taking the lead on developing the strategy. When we cut to Cad Bane, and he goes to the Pikes, and he informs the Pikes that the situation in Freetown is taken care of. There won't be any resistance. Nobody will rise against the Pike Syndicate. Cad Vanth and the town of Freetown are too afraid to help. And Boba Fett doesn't even know that the Pikes were the ones responsible for the death and destruction caused at the Tusken village. So we get to the next scene after that one. And it's at Pelimato's repair shop junkyard. And an X-Wing flies in. It lands. Peli's all nervous because she hasn't filed new Republic papers for keeping her license up to date, when out comes Baby Grogu, Baby Yoda, and we see that this decision has been made. Instead of joining Luke, Baby Grogu has chosen to stick with the Mandalorian. Of course, we see R2-D2 there in the astromech spot. He was the pilot of this X-Wing. And of course, you know, it's Luke's X-Wing. It's Red 5. So Peli sees Grogu as she climbs up the ladder. She finds out Grogu's name. She says that's a horrible name. And R2 asks, by beeping and bopping and booping, where Din Djarin the Mandalorian is. And Peli says he's not here. And that's where Peli says, Grogu, that's a horrible name. So then the episode cuts back to Mos Espa. Again, the Mos Espa Casino Spa, Madame Garza's former place of business. It's a shell of its former self after the explosion last week. And this is where Fennec Shand is telling the mods and Boba Fett and Din Djarin, the Mandalorian, where everybody's going to be stationed. The Gamorrean guards are going to be stationed in one area where all the ships land and all the people and passengers coming into Tatooine. And then Dark Xanthan is going to be stationed in another area. And then, of course, the Power Rangers, the Borg wannabes, the Voltron Force are going to be placed in another area. That way they can have a heads up for when the Pikes are about to show up. And Boba Fett says he's fine with that. Meanwhile, Mando and Boba Fett are going to stay in Mos Espa. And there's a reason why they're staying in Mos Espa. But first, Boba Fett walks out of Madame Garza's burnout remains, the burned out place, because he thought he smelled something, and that something is Cad Bane. Cad Bane is there to tell him that he shouldn't expect any reinforcements from Freetown. And he also informs Boba Fett about what happened to the Tusken tribe that he was with. Some words are exchanged. Mando shows himself, points his blaster at him. Nice shot of Cad Bane right there. And Fennec's there too. And this is where Cad Bane lets Boba know what happened to the Tusken tribe. You see Fennec is right behind Boba. Again, words were exchanged. Basically telling Boba and his group they better not try anything because the Pike Syndicate is ready to take over Mos Espa and have the spice run through Tatooine. So the Major Domo comes out, starts talking, and then the Power Rangers, Voltron Force, you name it, they're in trouble because they are under attack. And soon Dark Chrysanthemum is going to be under attack. But the first victims of death in this episode aren't Dark Chrysanthemum. They aren't the Vespa crew, Power Rangers, Voltron Force. They're the Gamorrean guards. They end up falling off this cliff as they are attacked first by one of the houses. And then, of course, the droid comes with the mayor's representative, and the mayor's representative is basically trying to weasel his way out of this situation. But Boba says, no, you're going to negotiate for us. You're going to be our emissary. And okay, so maybe it was the mayor's talking, mouthpiece that was one, but he agrees to go out there. Meanwhile, Fennec agrees to go and help the Vespa crew, the Power Rangers, Voltron Force. She gets on her speeder bike and speeds away to where the mods are. Of course, like I said, they're under attack. Fennec gets there, tells the mod crew to stay low, don't come out of hiding, and Fennec picks off each and every one of these houses one by one who are overwhelming the Vespa's crew. So they show up and they're thinking everything's fine, everything's hunky dory because they're back at Mos Espa. There you see Boba and you can see Mando. Boba and Mando have an exchange. Mando says this is the way, and Boba says, "You really believe in that stuff, don't you?" And Mando says, "Yes, I do." But they're both there. They're both willing to give up their lives and sacrifice themselves just to free everybody in Mos Espa. And this is where the Major Domo says he'll be the emissary. So Boba gets on a tablet that he's handed by the Major Domo and writes out his terms. His terms are pretty much get off this planet, leave this planet alone. I'm not surrendering. And that's when the Major Domo, who's reading it off, realizes what Boba's terms are. And he's like, oh crap. Oh crap. This is from Boba Fett. This isn't from me. So we cut to another scene where Boba and Mando fly in. They start blasting these Pike members, taking them down one by one, and it's an Old West shootout. And Mando's getting hit. Boba's getting hit. And of course, they are taking down a few people. And then all of a sudden, when it looks bleak, the people of Freetown show up. We find out that Marshal Vanth is gone in cold blood. So they don't necessarily say he's dead. They just say he was gunned down in cold blood. But you got to believe that he possibly is dead. If he does end up coming back, we'll probably see that in season 3 of Mandalorian. So the people of Freetown are helping out when all of a sudden trouble arises. And we're not just talking about ordinary trouble, especially with the Vespa crew coming back. We're talking about big trouble ends up coming and really hurting everybody. And you know what's funny is at one point when Dark Sampson is stationed in his location, he gets overtaken by some Trandoshans. And there's also another scene where he's coming back to Mos Espa. He gets shot in the leg several times. He gets shot several times in this episode, and he can barely walk. He's dragging his leg, and at one point, as he's dragging his leg, he gets behind the land speeder, and you see these scorpions or scorponok, as I've been calling them. So, they start firing at this scorponok, but there's only one problem. This scorponok and the other scorponoks, they have ray shields, and their blaster fire isn't penetrating the ray shields. So everybody's firing, and they're wasting ammo. They're wasting time firing at these shields that their weapons cannot penetrate. So, there's explosions, there's destruction. They have to fall back and retreat. At one point, Dark Something gets up, starts blasting, and he gets knocked back after he tries to use his electric brass knuckles, his spiked knuckles, and he tries to use the electricity to create a hole in the shield, and he gets knocked back. Well, these two help him back up, these two Power Rangers, Voltron Force members. And at one point, this guy, as they're under fire, he gets up and stops helping Dark Xanthan because they're under fire, but he spins around and starts shooting. Now, I'm sorry. You're in the middle of a firefight and you have enough time to spin around and start shooting? No. You don't have enough time to do that. You're getting shot at. You have to react. So you got to fire back. You're not going to think about spinning around and shooting your blaster. Sorry, that's just dumb. So then Pele comes and she runs into Mando. Mando's telling her, get back, it's too dangerous. And then we see the Scorponok droid. Everybody's still trying to fire at it to no avail. And then everybody has to retreat. Well, leave it up to Vespa woman right here and one of the members of Freetown, this member of Freetown, and they're the ones that come up with a strategy to get on the roof, and they even take one of the rifles and say, "Cover me," but guess what? None of the Scorponok blaster fire is shooting at them, nor is the Scorponok droid even coming at them. And that's when the barkeep surrenders his rifle. Then here comes Peli and Mando. Mando's still shooting to no avail. And that's when Mando finds out that Grogu is on Tatooine and with Peli. And of course, it's not a good time. It's a reunion before season 3 between Mando and Grogu. And of course, Grogu's happy to see Mando. And of course, Mando's happy to see Grogu. Peli's firing. Mando's firing. They get knocked off. Yeah, the Scorponok droid took care of their chariot. And of course, they're still all in trouble. Everything's going wrong. And they know it. And Boba ends up leaving via his jetpack. You think he's going to get Slave 1? Nah, he's not getting Slave 1. Hey, Punk Waddle, how you doing, brother? Good to see you. And Punk Waddle says, "Hey, Pacific, I actually watched this episode before the weekend, probably just to get it out of the way. I don't blame you. I don't blame you, brother. But anyways, Boba comes back with Godzilla. He comes back with Godzilla. Okay, so it's the Rancor. But the Rancor comes. Boba's riding on top of the Rancor. The Scorponok droid is firing at him. Boba's firing. Again, the shields are up, so nothing's even working. Mando even uses the Darksaber. Doesn't work. Doesn't work. Doesn't penetrate the shield. And you can even see here where the Rancor's got his claws up against the shield, and the shield's holding there steadily. Nothing's happening. And you know what? I got a bot. And you know what I have to say to the bot? Well, I'll show you what I have to say to the bot. This is what
The time has come. Execute Order 66.
That's right. So, bot, you're gone. You are gone. So long, sucker. So, again, the Rancor is trying to penetrate the shield to no avail. And of course, even though he gets one of his claws through, doesn't work. He has to tear off one of the limbs from the Scorponok droid to even cause some damage. Of course, Mando's in trouble. Baby Yoda's looking on. And Baby Yoda's getting ready to use his force powers. But guess what? He can't use them. He's not close enough. So it looks like Mando's gonna see his undoing. Meanwhile, the Rancor, now that the shields are down because it managed to tear off one of the limbs and use it to damage the Scorponok droid, the Rancor is going to town. And Boba Fett, I was about to say Mando, says, "Rip it apart." So that's what the Rancor does. Meanwhile, the other Scorponok droid is still firing at the Power Rangers and the people of Freetown. And these two are up on the roof, and they have their strategy. Well, one of the Pikes gets shot, and those two are up on the roof. They're trying to create a distraction. Shields are still up. And even after they managed to knock the side of this building down onto one of the droids, it's still quite functional. As a matter of fact, it's very
Still function. What?
Yep. So, yeah, they're screwed. The Rancor is getting blasted. The Rancor is actually getting injured. And they're looking on like, oh my god. Oh my god. And then, of course, the Rancor is pissed. The Rancor does manage to destroy the Scorponok droid. And the Pikes are still firing. Everybody's firing. It's a shootout, folks. Of course, he's cowering. He's scared. And Peli says, get behind me, pretty boy. So he follows Peli. More Pikes come into the scene. And the Rancor starts throwing people around. Then more shots. Rancor smashes one of the Pikes. Then in strolls Cad Bane. And Cad Bane's looking on. Cad Bane could care less about what's going on. He's just there to do a job. And he sees Boba on top of the Rancor. And the Rancor is roaring, screaming, hollering at Cad Bane. Cad Bane uses his flamethrower, and it scares the Rancor, and then Boba is knocked off the Rancor. Boba gets up, and we get some history between Boba and Cad Bane. And one of the things that Cad Bane says to Boba is, you're not a peacemaker. You're in this line of work. You're just like your father. This line of work is coming back to you. And let's see who else is in the chat. Okay, Punkwaddle says, I don't want to bring all the bots to the yard. You're not bringing all the bots to the yard, brother. You know, that you know just as well as I do. And I know you're joking. I know you're joking. But you know as much as I do with the streams that you and I both watch. We've seen each other in the chat that the bots are relentless and they're attacking every stream they can. So these two have an exchange, and Bane pretty much challenges Boba Fett to a duel, and Boba's getting his ass whooped. Yes, Boba is getting his ass whooped. So after a while, there's, a knock of Boba's rifle. Boba can't get to it. Cad Bane puts his foot on his right arm, and he taunts him a little bit, tells him he's weak, and he says, you shouldn't have kept this job. You're weak, and you're, you know what you are? You're a bounty hunter. You're not a peaceful man. You're a bounty hunter. You do jobs. You're an evil man, just like the rest of us. As soon as that stops buffering. Of course, Boba's scared for his life. And Punkwaddle says, tee comedy is timing. Yes, I know, brother. I know. I know. Yeah, and there we see it. Cad Bane. I mean, I'll give them credit. I will give them credit for the work they did on the effects for Cad Bane to make him look realistic. They did some nice work there. So, just when it seems like all is lost, Boba pulls out his gaffy stick, knocks out down Cad Bane, and then he ends up killing Cad Bane. Yep, he kills him, and we get an overhead view of the presumed to be dead Cad Bane. Boba walks away, and then we see the Rancor. But guess what? First, the Rancor is impersonating Godzilla. Then he climbs up on the tower and does his best King Kong impression. So everybody's trying to shoot at the Rancor. Mando gets the crazy dumb idea to actually fly up there and try to deal with the Rancor himself. Even attempts to ride him. Stupid Mando. Yeah, that didn't quite work well. Yeah, first the Rancor tries to eat him. Thanks to that Beskar helmet, it saves his head, and Mando gets thrown down. Yep, forget Mick Foley or Undertaker being thrown off the Hell in the Cell. Mando gets thrown off the top of a building, top of a tower. Yeah, Mando's hurt. So then Baby Yoda comes in front of the Rancor, and it looks like the Rancor is going to have his first snack. The Rancor's hungry. The Rancor screams, roars at Baby Yoda. Meanwhile, Baby Yoda does his best impression of Captain Picard in Best of Both Worlds. Sleep, Rancor. Sleep. And that's what ends up happening. The Rancor falls asleep. Grogu ends up using all his force powers to put the Rancor to sleep. And then what happens? You think Luke would have trained him to manage his powers better? Nah. Baby Yoda falls asleep right next to the Rancor. So everything's nice and hunky-dory. The town of Mos Espa is saved. Fennec and Boba are walking through the streets. Everybody's happy. They're all, yay, you saved the town. You saved the town. Yay, thank you. Thank you. You know, we see the helmets of the stormtroopers on the spears. And again, everybody's happy. Meanwhile, at the Pike Syndicate, the Pike Syndicate leader is giving a rundown of their reconnaissance and, the lack of success for the mission. The mayor's talking to the Pike leader when all of a sudden the mayor is lassoed and pulled up to the top of the ceiling and he's killed. So this guy freaks out, pulls out his blaster. And, well, guess what happens to him? He's killed. So we cut back to Mos Espa. This is where the town folk are cleaning everything up and they're greeting Boba and Fennec, and Boba's complaining about his right arm because he's being saluted, so he's saluting back. And the reason why he's complaining about his right arm is because he was injured in his right arm. But guess who ended up killing those two in the previous scene? Fennec. Yep, she did it. Not Boba. Not Boba. Not the guy who spent the time with the Tusken tribe. Nah. It was Nick. That was Boba's kill. That was Boba's term of vengeance. It wasn't Fennec's to take. But they're talking and they're happy, everybody's happy. There you see Black Chrysanthemum. He's just looking at him like, what? And of course, one of the things that Boba was handed was a melon, so he tosses it to Black Chrysanthemum. Chrysanthemum says thanks for the snack, takes a bite. This guy complains about not getting the melon. The Power Rangers are looking on, going, where's our melon? Go get your own. And then they all share a laugh. Ha ha ha. Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, real funny. And then we cut to Mando and Grogu. And Grogu keeps banging the knob on the dome here. And Mando says, no, not again. I'm not doing it again. Grogu does it again. Mando says, I'm not doing it again. Grogu does it again. And Mando ends up giving in. Yep. Grogu wanted to go fast. So that's how the episode ends. And to be perfectly honest, ladies and gentlemen, whether you're watching this live or you're watching this after the fact, I have watched this episode twice. I thought maybe watching it a second time would change my original opinion. No, no, it didn't change my original opinion. This episode's a 2 out of 5. This episode was bad. There were things in this episode, like with the Vespa kids, that were just bad. The writing in this show, to start off with the Tuscan tribe, and then Boba, you think, is gonna start making his own mark on his territory, but no. We get 3 episodes with the Tuscans, one with Boba developing his own way, you think, and then we get 2 episodes of The Mandalorian season 3. And then you have this episode, and honestly, this episode wasn't very good. It wasn't very good. And no, I did not believe the rumors when it came to hearing about the possibility about Han Solo and Chewbacca and Princess Leia showing up. No, I did not buy that. I thought that was a load of shit. And Punk Waddle says there wasn't even enough exposition to connect some of the dots or explain why certain things happen. Exactly. I can say this because I've seen all 7 episodes. They didn't have a plan for this series. They never had a plan for this series. And you can tell. You can tell from what we saw in episode 1, what we saw in episode 2, episode 3, episode 4, and then to throw in 2 episodes of The Mandalorian on top of that, they didn't have a plan. And as far as their decision to have Grogu come back to The Mandalorian, that's just stupid. I don't care if it's said in the comics that Ben Solo is Luke's first students. I don't care about that. There are a lot of times where books mean nothing compared to what you see on screen. Comics mean nothing compared to what you see on screen. I was even saying to some friends the other day, before this episode even aired, I said, Grogu's made his decision when you see an X-Wing land. And what ended up happening in this episode? You saw an X-Wing land. This episode, for me, became so predictable because they were relying on tropes. It's like, oh, wait a minute. We need Baby Yoda to save the day. And that's pretty much what Baby Yoda does with the Rancor. He saves the day. It's like, Boba can't do anything for himself. Fennec has to do it. Mando has to do it. The Power Ranger squad has to do it. I mean, I will admit, I've admitted it before. Star Trek was my first love, but I came to love Star Wars. I came to love, the original 6 movies, the games, every little bit of Star Wars I can get my hands on. No, I haven't read all the EU. I mean, with all those books, there's no way I can read them all. I haven't even read the Timothy Zahn Thrawn series, the original one. But this series had no plan, much like the sequel trilogy had no plan. And no, this doesn't cancel the sequel trilogy. Ahsoka will not cancel the sequel trilogy. It won't. None of these series that will be coming out in the Mandoverse, if you want to call it that, will cancel out the sequel trilogy. It's set in stone. Whether we like it or not, whether it's OG fans like it or not, it's set in stone. I'm sorry for the rant, but anybody who's been to this channel before, you have heard me give my rants before. You've heard me during the baseball season rant about the Cubs doing squat. And don't get me started on Manfred's proposal to actually have a season this year. I'll save that for another video. But it's bad writing. Okay, yes, it was fan fiction. It was literal fan fiction, but I used to write stories. I haven't written stories in a long time, but I used to write stories that I would have people, read them to go over them and give their honest opinion. And a lot of people liked them. They liked the way I structured the story. They liked how I wouldn't just settle on keep the story to one certain plot point if I didn't feel that that plot point didn't connect with the other plot point. But I also got criticism, constructive criticism, and I took that advice to heart. Let's see. Punkwaddle says it's almost like they had filmed the Sand People parts earlier and then decided to go in a completely different direction, but still use the footage instead of scrapping it. Exactly. Exactly. And maybe there is truth to these rumors that there were reshoots because it's evident. You're getting not just one type of show, not just another type of show, but three different types of shows. You're getting the Tusken part, you're getting the Mando part, and you're getting the Boba part. Three different shows. It doesn't make sense, folks. Not in my eyes. It doesn't make sense. Yeah, this episode's a 2 out of 5. And that's being generous. That is being generous. I could have given it a 1 out of 5. But I'm giving it a 2 out of 5 because there were parts I liked. And one of the parts I liked was seeing Boba and Mando get on their jetpacks, fly up, and shoot from the air. But here's my question. Why in the hell do you have Boba going and getting the Rancor when Slave One is sitting there in the parking lot ready to be used? Come on, get Slave One. That thing has firepower. It should have at least some firepower to help penetrate the shields, in my opinion. This series is a mess. And don't tell me, well, Mike, just wait for Obi-Wan. I don't have faith in Obi-Wan right now. I don't care that Ewan McGregor's coming back. I don't care that Hayden Christensen's coming back. I don't have faith in Star Wars anymore. I don't have faith in Star Trek anymore. I don't have faith in Doctor Who anymore. I don't have faith in anything that Hollywood is producing anymore. Well, okay, maybe with one exception, Cobra Kai. But it can't just be one show that makes me go, I still have faith. Or could it? I don't know. I don't know. Because Doctor Who, like I said, I no longer have faith in. Star Trek, I no longer have faith in. Star Wars, I no longer have faith in. Heck, George Lucas himself has said that they've taken Star Wars in a direction he wouldn't have taken it, and that he considers the original 6 movies his vision. And he's right. It's like Gene Roddenberry with Star Trek. His vision is the original series and what you saw in the first 2 seasons of Next Generation. Yes, it's still carried into season 3 and season 4 of Next Generation, but I will give the Berman era credit, even though the Berman era does get crap. They did do their due diligence to keep that vision going. Yes, they did bend the rules quite often, but they still kept to Roddenberry's vision. And how hard is it to keep to George Lucas's vision? It shouldn't be hard. That's his creation, his vision. He wrote the book on Star Wars, folks. I know I don't have to tell you that, but he wrote the book. And you don't, go into his book and say, well, I don't like this particular chapter. I don't like this particular book, and rewrite it. No, you stick to that vision. You stick to that story that's being told. You stick to the series Bible if there's a series Bible. I don't even know if this series or The Mandalorian or any of the Star Wars TV series that are going to be on Disney Plus even have a show Bible to give you, a brief rundown of what these characters are about. And then, it gives the writers a roadmap and how to expand upon it. I don't know, man. Gosh. And Puckwaddle says because they made sure to have Boba hear the people used to ride the Rancors in the past, which was most exposition we got in the show that panned out. Yeah, true. But here's another thing. We didn't see Boba train to ride the Rancor. You could have done that in episode 5. You could have done that in episode 6. Showed Danny Trejo training Boba Fett on how to not only tame the Rancor so it doesn't attack him, but also learn to ride the Rancor. I would have liked to see that. I don't know that anyone else would have liked to see that. I can't speak for anyone watching this live or watching this after the fact, but I would have liked to see it. It's disappointing to see what Star Wars has become. It's no longer about story. It's about product. It's about constant consume, consume, consume. You will consume this. You will consume that. Heck, you know what? Maybe I will talk about Manfred and his proposal to the players union. I know it's sports ball. I know, but anyone who has been on this channel knows that I cover the Cubs. And after each and every game I give my recap. But his proposal for getting the season underway on time is to add an incentive for the draft pick, but the key point, and I'm a National League guy, is to add the DH in the National League. What kind of BS is that? What kind of bullshit is that? Come on. There's strategy in the National League, unlike the American League. I don't want the DH in the National League. I don't. I want the game to stay the way it is. There's nothing wrong with it. Just like there was nothing wrong with Star Wars before you had the likes of J.J. Abrams and Ryan Johnson get their greasy hands on it, and Kathleen Kennedy. There was nothing wrong with Star Trek before, Alex Kurtzman got his greasy mitts on it. There was nothing wrong with Doctor Who before Chimbal's got his hands on it. Jeez, man. I know I'm complaining right now, and I know nobody wants to hear it, but gosh. I mean, it's frustrating. It is very frustrating as a fan of properties to see these properties be changed when no changes are needed. And Punkwaddle says, I'm not saying it makes sense in the show. It's just that cringe moment when we all could see this coming. Yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing. I could see things coming. As I'm watching, I'm going, okay, Baby Yoda is going to come. Just like I said with a few of my friends that I was talking to about it. I said, and here's the next wing. And yes, it does have Baby Yoda. Oh, what's going to happen next? Oh, some machines are going to come. Yep. I knew that was going to happen. Same with the Vespa kids. Oh, yeah. Yep. They're going to take charge and they're going to have their leader, because that's what she is, their leader, say, no, we're going to go on the roof and you men can stay here and get vaporized. But me and this woman, we're going to go on the roof and we're going to do it because we're the bestest ever. I have nothing against strong female characters, but it has to be organic. It has to be. And go ahead and disagree with me. I don't mind that. I don't mind. That's why we have discourse. That's why after I finish this rant, I am inviting anyone who wants to come on and give their point of view on this episode, on this series if they want to. Okay. Let's see. Padawannabe is here. Hello, the Padawannabe. And Padawannabe says, "Sorry, I'm late. I wanted to catch this. It's okay. It's okay. I've always told people you don't have to be here on time. I've told people before I do Pop Talks, you're more than welcome to come onto Pop Talk. But the only person that has to be there at the scheduled time when it starts is me. I'm the only one. You don't have to be there on time. I do. Because I'm the one hosting it. And let's see. Punk Waddle is also greeting the Padawannabe. So if you guys would like to come on, I am copying the invite link and I will post it in the Discord. In the Pacific414 Discord, if you'd like to come on, it'll be in the general chat area. So you are more than welcome to join if you're interested. If you're not, that's all right. We can always discuss this another time because I'm sure this won't be the last time I discuss it. As a matter of fact, I already know that this won't be the last time I discuss it because a friend of mine has started watching the series and he wants to have a discussion about it on the channel. So I have told him, okay, but I will do my due diligence not to spoil any of these episodes with you. And, I'm giving my opinion right now. And if I were to grade this series as a whole, I'm giving it 2 out of 5 stars. That's just my opinion. I, you know, I I can say that part of it was because, what we got teased with at the end of season 2 of The Mandalorian, thinking, all right, so Boba walks into Jabba's palace, sees Bib Fortuna, shoots him at point blank range in cold blood, tosses him off the throne, sits in the throne like a badass. And then what do we get when we see this series? The flashback of Boba Fett. And, we also got this too.
Like a panther. Yes?
Yeah, we got scenes like that too. And I don't know. I just don't know. I mean, did they really sit down in a room and come up with this idea and say this is the best we've got? Obviously, it probably isn't the case because, as we've discussed tonight, the first 3 episodes felt like a completely different story compared to episode 4. Then you had episode 5 and 6 were, again, season 3 of The Mandalorian, and then you had the finale. I'm not trying to hate on Star Wars here, but when you're getting entertainment that just isn't good and has ridiculous moments and comedy where there doesn't need to be comedy. These people are in the middle of a war. It's a mob war. It's like The Godfather. It's like Goodfellas. They're in the middle of a war. You don't want to, be in the middle of a battle and say, "Hey, let's throw in this corny joke here or throw in that corny joke there." No, not in my opinion. Absolutely not. And again, I don't have any hope for the Obi-Wan series. I just don't. I really don't. And the fact that Kathleen Kennedy herself has been quoted as the saying that Darth Vader and Obi-Wan are going to have a rematch, then you know what it does? It makes their rematch, the reunion on the Death Star in the original Star Wars, mean nothing. Absolutely mean nothing. I could see if it was in a dream sequence, you know, Obi-Wan's flashing back to Mustafar, flashing back to that moment where he severed Anakin's limbs. Again, it would be another Star Wars series with a flashback, and who knows how many flashbacks we might even see in Obi-Wan. But as far as having those two meet up, I don't know. And then to hear that, you know, the Grand Inquisitor is going to be involved, well, we'll see. We will see. We will definitely see. But I don't know. What do you guys think? You've seen this episode. If you liked it, give it a 1 in the chat. If you didn't like it, give it a 2 in the chat. I don't bite. And I'm not going to tell you you're wrong. No, that's your opinion. You're all entitled to your opinion. Your opinion might differ from mine. That's fine. That's fine. I'm not here to argue. I'm not here to, you know, tell you you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. I want to hear your point of view. That's why I've added the link in the Discord, and we do have someone who accepted the link. And at this time, I want to thank the Padawan Bee for accepting the invitation to come on.
Hey, how you doing?
Doing good, brother. So, I want to hear your perspective on this episode and the series as a whole.
Well, I've heard a few rumors, but putting it all together, what we've heard of over the past year, I think this is the first result we're seeing, unfortunately. I think Filoni and Favreau tried and are still trying really hard to keep everything Disney writing style kind of out of Mandalorian as much as possible, even though we all know how much that show's been affected. But they've continued to do well with Mandalorian. This show, and we all know of the supposed rumor. I don't know what's real and what's not, but we've all heard of massive rewrites and reshoots and having to scrap the whole Kenobi thing. And hopefully they were able to rein that in and get enough of some input we like in that. I think this Boba Fett, it really still shows those modernist movements, you know, of what they're trying to prove. And there are very easily ways they can integrate this biker gang without forcing it, you know. And what I didn't get to hear everything for the first like 25 minutes, unfortunately, but your point exactly, when they're hunkered down and the head scooter girl is like barking out orders, a lot of it makes sense, but then there's a few phrases and things they do that don't make sense. You know, like her saying we need to dig in here makes sense because she says, you know, I lived not too far from here. If we go farther, we have no cover. So, okay, so that's a fine term. And then but then it was like they made it a point for her to say, I need to get up there, when she doesn't even have a sniper rifle. You know, like she needs to get into a sniping position. It could have easily, she could have said, just shout out, hey, we need somebody up there in a sniping position.
Yeah, and somebody get up on the roof.
And the Weequay has the cycler rifle. He's like, I can go. Or he can say, I can't make it up there. Take my rifle. They can make it more realistic, more not, it's the verbiage they're using that makes it seem obvious to me as a viewer I'm kind of somebody who wants to soak it up. There's nothing they've done in the series to make me hate it so much I won't watch it again. I can say that. But there are things in it, of course, I wish they did differently, but I would say I'm happier with this series than I was with the Masters of Universe series, as far trying to keep it comparable to something that's just come out.
Good point.
Although and I can't say I'm a larger He-Man fan than a Star Wars fan, but that was something from my childhood, and that seemed even more like they were pushing their ideals and their perspectives. But it was really just that biker gang in this one that did not fit. And we've heard the rumors of or the interview where Tamora Morrison was saying now he thought the character should lean this way, and those are things or not say as much, and I think I should be more this kind of character and things like that, and all of it makes sense. This is when I'm really wondering, hearing all this stuff over the last year, is this what it looks like when it's really broken? You know what I mean? Because this really seems like they were pulling together some stuff, and the 2 episodes really seem like they were more Mandalorian. Like, it literally seems like they just ripped a couple episodes straight from Mandalorian and brought them into the Book of Boba Fett.
Which in my opinion hurts the overall series. If it's supposed to be the Book of Boba Fett starring Tamora Morrison as Boba Fett, you're hurting your series. You're hurting the fact that Tamora Morrison is your lead actor. You're saying we don't think he can carry the weight of the show on his own, so we have to bring in somebody else. It's like in wrestling when they bring back a star from the past to try to boost up ratings.
Oh, well, yeah. And that's why I think, that's why I really think this is what we're seeing for the first time, where we don't know what went on behind the scenes. So is this the first results we're getting? Is this the first show where it's like, wow, you can really see the arguments happening? Because there was a couple even with Boba involved, there's a couple episodes there pretty decent. We're not seeing anything, agenda driven and things like that. But then you get a few things in this episode, very blatant, not too, like I said, it's like, come on. Okay, let's move past it. What do you got for me? And I'm kind of waiting for the next thing. But I'm seeing a lot of merging of, I think what they have realized at Disney Lucasfilm is there's a lot of fans that there's a lot of fans that know of the extended universe beyond the movies. But they also know that there's fans that just watch the movies and just watch certain ones. Because I keep seeing them tying things in from EU and from their animated series. Where it's, and the things I've watched over the decades, it's like, oh, we've, like, people were like, oh, here's our King Kong moment with the Rancor going up the skyscraper. And it's like, yeah, but of course, us who are entrenched in the sci-fi fantasy genre have seen King Kong do it several, have seen Godzilla do it, have seen dinosaurs and other giant people do it and all this stuff, So for us, I think some of those moments they're trying to make shine, we as prolific fantasy fans, it's a little diluted. Because I instantly thought that too. It's like, oh, here's our King Kong moment, and I was fully expecting the two Mandalorians to go up and start trying to wrangle him, a la, attacking with the biplanes. But they didn't. They didn't quite lean into it so much. So I was kind of glad it didn't get too cliched.
Mm-hmm.
But there was, I think this is just the first result we see that did suffer from whatever was going on behind the scenes.
Yep.
And I think
things obviously weren't right behind the scenes.
I mean, we've all heard our rumors and our various media outlets we get them from, and what we believe and what we don't. But we all know one thing was true, that there was not agreement on anything. Characters, script, overall story. I mean, that was one thing for sure. And I think this is the first show that suffered. Hopefully all the other shows are far enough away that they were able to get them back to at least close to the way they want them, if not the way they originally thought of them. Because the as we go through this series, every show I keep realizing more and more that it's like, well, these were supposed to be movies, and they, if they were planning to do it this way, this is still all, it's not all stemming from the Carano incident, but
no,
that really started the dominoes falling, and really exploiting what was going on behind the scenes, so I have to say I'm a little nervous about Kenobi, but not for the same reasons everybody else is. I'm worried because of what has been coming up, the ideas and perspectives of a few people, them saying that they're leaning on the old characters, and why do we have to have all these cameos, and they're just bringing in Luke because they didn't know what else to do. And I'm like, well, what is the whole entire series of Kenobi supposed to be? Kenobi, I mean, Kenobi is arguably one of the main characters that's been in the series more than a lot of other characters. So it makes me wonder, are they just going to go, they're just leaning on him too much? If they were saying this about a few minutes of cameos in other series, that's what worries me. It's like, but this is what you want, but are these same things going to come up again? That's what makes me more nervous. I'm not so nervous about what we hear might happen in the series. It doesn't change anything for me. And it really is that main line you mentioned, how the fight and the comments that they say before that. And if they meet this time, it throws everything off, and I can't buy into that all the way, only because I've always looked at that fight. Like, I remember thinking when I was younger, when you finally realize what he's saying, like, I haven't felt a disturbance like this since, and he doesn't say when the last time he was. And I've always wondered, it's like my instant thought is, when was the last time he saw him? And then when they made the prequels, you had to assume that was the last time.
Yeah.
But because I thought that way for so long, I still think, when was the last time they saw each other? I don't know. I can see the only thing that needs to happen is there does need to be a long gap between if Vader and Kenobi see each other to when Luke is growing up.
Well, here's what bugs me, because I read an article yesterday, and in the article they said that it's going to be a 10-year gap between Revenge of the Sith and the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. Is that enough time?
Well, and so how is Luke 16 or 18 in A New Hope?
I thought he was 16, but I could be
Okay,
wrong.
so there would be a 6-year gap. And that would be the question you'd have to ask yourself, and those people you have to ask yourself, is 6 years enough to make that believable? I mean, I buy into the idea, and I'm like, I'd kind of rather it be a lot longer than that. Like, I could see if maybe Luke was really young, like a toddler or under 5, where his force powers really might not be able to be sensed because he knows nothing of it, you know? And I guess it really depends on if Vader even comes to Tatooine, because I guess Kenobi's supposed to go off world anyway. So I'm kind of getting off topic here. I started talking Kenobi.
No, it's fine. We can talk Kenobi because that's the next series besides the Bad Batch that's going to be coming on.
Yeah, and I'm actually I'm kind of surprised that Bad Batch is it gonna be the gap filler? Are we getting it?
I mean,
before
we could.
Kenobi, or
Let me look that up.
Because that's what I was thinking about right now, and it's like, well, what is the next series? They were probably hoping to start some kind of Rangers show by now. And I actually wanted to mention a touch on Rangers, and it's supposed to be shelved or canceled all the way or something. But that seems to be the thing that is, I don't understand why those lines are kept in the overall story. It seems like they're making being a marshal a point.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? We've seen the officers a few times, the X-wing pilots, and Cara Dune was supposed to be a marshal, but we've seen Cobb Vanth now is a marshal, or Rangers, I think, as they probably would be called, like the Texas Ranger kind of idea.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I still think that could show up, and that's kind of what I was almost, as I watched this Boba Fett series, I'm like, God, would this have been a new Rangers storyline? Because I could easily have seen the X-wing pilots getting together with Cobb Vanth and Cara Dune and the Mandalorian, and that easily being a fight, all them being involved in. It just, that's why it just makes
sense.
That's why it just makes me wonder if Boba Fett was really the first media we got that showed us how disruptive things got.
Yeah, the first casualty of this infernal civil war that's been rumored about.
So, August 5th. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, see, so we are going to have a gap. Wow, I wonder if they're leaning on Lego Star Wars coming out.
Possibly.
Because August 5th, that seems like after Kenobi. Isn't Kenobi May or June?
May 25th was the announced premiere date.
See, so if that stays there, this Kenobi will run into Bad Batch. So for the next March, April, May, June, you know what I mean? We're not going to have anything, I guess.
From what it looks like.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and this is just me thinking out loud, thinking, why are you going to have such a large gap in between series?
Yeah, I think
Unless
that
they're
has to do with what was going on also. Like we're really just start because the scheduling got messed up for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they were past recovering from flu-like symptoms to get back on a regular schedule because it seems like everything is coming out now. We're
Mm-hmm.
not really hearing of things getting stopped all out anymore. So hopefully, that part is at least figured out enough that they can continue on a regular basis. But yeah, definitely, because it just is, and if Lando was supposed to have come out by this time, I don't know.
I'm not sure unless let me do a search and see if the Cassian Andor series is supposed to be coming out
Because
anytime.
I'd be pretty confident in saying that Andor did get postponed with what was going on with the story group.
All right, I'm looking it up right now to see if there's been anything announced. I haven't seen anything, but just because I haven't seen anything doesn't mean it hasn't been announced.
So, and I guess we're getting Andor in 23. Is that
One source I'm seeing here is saying it's supposed to be released this year, but it's not giving them a month or a date.
so? If Kenobi runs into Bad Batch, and Bad Batch is another, what were they, 12 episodes or something like that? 14? I can't remember. It was a
think it
lot less
was.
than it used to
I
be.
think it was 16 episodes.
Okay. So that puts us
That's
right.
a lot for this day and age.
Yeah. I'm just used to the old Clone Wars being 20 to 24 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
So that puts us at the end of the year. And if they are doing Mandalorian 3, I think they would, like how they released Boba Fett right between Christmas and New Year, I think they would do Mandalorian season 3 that same way. But gosh, yeah, that does give us a pretty big gap. I wonder what's going on. I really hope that game comes out on time, man. If they have nothing happening visually and that game gets postponed again, God, I don't even know what to say at that point.
Neither do I, man.
Because so that's the thing we just don't hear about. We hear about the negativity, but we don't hear what they're doing. Like, are they trying to get back on schedule? Are they really, I just don't hear enough about that side of the coin to know. I mean, because even this game, it was postponed, and then it seemed like it came out of nowhere. It was almost like we were in acceptance of this perpetual postponement.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure.
Excuse me. Let's see. Whoopa's here. Welcome, Whoopa. How you doing, brother?
Hey,
what do you have on?
That's this is a Star-Lord mask. I made it.
Okay, I see it.
I was playing Guardians of the Galaxy on the channel, and I don't have any Star Wars Woopa yet, so this was the closest I had.
It's good enough. It's Disney. Hey.
Yeah, true. So what were you saying? I missed this bit because I was trying to get everything sorted and get in the chat. You were saying something about a video game, Star Wars video game?
Well, we were mentioning that we were trying to figure out this year's schedule, like if there was anything coming up. And it appears that there's between now and Kenobi, that there's no shows from what we can find. So I mentioned maybe they're really leaning on Lego Star Wars coming out.
Maybe that's I know I was hearing about that. That's supposed to be a pretty ambitious Lego game.
Well, all I know is I have a Lego Razor Crest that has a code on it for Lego Star Wars. and the box is from 2 years ago. So,
Oh gosh. Yeah, it's been a while. We'll see. So when's Kenobi supposed to come out? 23?
It's supposed to come out on May 25th this year.
Oh, well, that's not too bad then.
no, that's what we were just saying. If that comes out then, and then he said Bad Batch was in, I think it was August, it looked like.
Yeah, August 5th for Bad Batch.
So those should almost run into each other. And that's why I was like, oh, so from now until then, we don't have any Star Wars shows.
I think sometimes it's better that way, at least for like business wise. Because I was saying I was talking about this with someone in the Discord earlier that I think that what Marvel was doing, with they had, I think in 1 year, right? They had WandaVision, they had what the heck was that show?
Falcon and Winter Soldier came out after
yeah.
WandaVision. Then you had Loki.
And Loki. I remember Loki. I remember Wanda. I was like, what came from it or something? This shows you how much it impacted it. But I think a lot of that, like if you love Marvel and you love the MCU, yeah, you're going to follow that. And I think the same is definitely the same is going to be said for Star Wars. But I do think if you're a casual fan, you're just kind of, or you're just, well, not a normie. If you're a normie, you probably don't watch these shows anyway. But if you're like a casual fan of Star Wars, the MCU, like once they start putting out all these shows and stuff, you're going to be like, they're going to get overwhelmed. They don't watch this as much. So I think like a lot of people just kind of tuned out of those MCU shows. I think with this, I know the Book of Boba Fett's numbers weren't as good, from what I understand. I know that it's not an exact science because they don't report them, but I know from what we can measure, it was at least less than the Mandalorian and other stuff. So I think you start releasing all these shows, a lot of casual fans will be like, I'm kind of turned off by that. Even if they're like great, even if they're all great shows, you're releasing all these different stories and you're continuing them on. It's like, oh crap, what's going on? It's overwhelming for someone who, maybe only watches a couple TV shows a year, or maybe they like Star Wars, but they're not as big of fans as someone like Mr. Padawannabe over here.
And I want to say hello to Amen Fate. Welcome. Always nice to see you.
Hello. Hello there.
Hello there.
And Purple says, since Disney runs both of them, I can't speak. The inundation between Marvel and Star Wars has been a lot. If they switch back and forth, at least there's some pacing. I think I know what he means. How they seem to be adding the same elements to Star Wars that they have in Marvel. The stupid humor, the stupid tricks that you see characters do. It's like, no, in this particular episode, it was an old Western shootout. Nobody would have time to do any dancing moves in the middle of the shootout. You're trying to get cover.
Sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt. That was I. Sorry, you should finish your sentence first. I don't want to interrupt you.
I'm finished, brother. I'm finished.
Oh, okay. Like that whole scene. So I didn't come on originally because I didn't watch Book of Boba, so I figured I'm not going to be too much help. But Mike graciously let me on anyway. So and we have things to talk about, of course. But I just remember I heard the reaction to episode 7 seemed to be good. Now I've heard some negative things, but it seemed like most people were saying, "Oh, I like it." But all I saw of it was that 2-second clip where he takes the Wookiee's arm off him, one guy with the weird eye thing and does a 360 just to shoot someone. I'm just sitting there like I think I laughed for a solid 5 minutes. I'm like, someone wrote this like unironically. Like it sounds like a joke. Like if you went up to someone about any piece of media besides maybe like Free Guy this year, because that was the whole point of it, that it was kind of silly video game joke. You come to someone and say, hey, yeah, they just wrote a 360 no scope into their movie that's supposed to be serious. I'm sorry, what? Like it's just ridiculous that because someone wrote that.
Yeah.
And then it went through like editing.
Robert Rodriguez directed it too. I have nothing against his films, but that's unnecessary in a gunfight. Any Western I've ever watched, I've never so like, Val Kilmer as Doc Holliday, or Kurt Russell as Wyatt Earp doing a spin and firing their guns during the OK Corral scene, or during any scene where they're having a shootout.
I want to make sure I'm thinking of the right spot that you guys are talking. Are you guys talking about when the two gang members are carrying Black Chrysanthemum?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yes. Keep talking about that. I have a comment when you guys are done, but keep going. I wanted to make sure I was on the same page.
Yeah. The one particular scene where they're trying to carry Black Chrysanthemum and they're under fire, and the one guy stops carrying Black Chrysanthemum, pulls out his blaster, spins around, and then fires while he's under fire.
Yeah.
It's just, to me, what I think is always so ridiculous with that is just that we know it's not like a unilateral move anymore, especially at, anything with this. There's a lot of approval rate things, So someone wrote that down. It went through editing. Yeah, they wrote that down and thought that's a good idea. It went through editing. And I'm like, that sounds reasonable. Then they gave it to, the director. He's like, okay, do that. And the actors did it. And everyone's looking at it like, yeah, it seems about right. I'm like, I did no one just sit up and like, okay, this is a funny take, but when are we doing the real shot? Like,
I remember seeing that shot and instantly thinking, okay, I understand what they tried to do.
Mm-hmm.
The way they filmed it made it look the way it looked, exactly the way it looked to you and a lot of other viewers. It looked like, wow, what are they doing? Why would he do that? Now, when I was thinking of it, I was like, okay, he's under Black Chrysanthemum's arm. Mm-hmm. They all need to draw their weapon, and he needs to get out of this big Wookiee arm's way so he can pull this gigantic rifle. I was like, okay, the spin makes sense, but the way they shot it, like, why'd they have to shoot it from that angle, really showing the flourish? That's what made it ridiculous to me. I was like, they shouldn't have. It looked like a dance move the way they presented it, and they somebody just need to say, oh, that was a pretty pirouette. Now can we do it like you're trying to get out of his way?
Right, exactly. Just one person to say that.
But yeah, I see exactly, and that's what I was trying to explain earlier. It's like there's a few things that you can see that they're either trying to make it look that way, or they're just, they're oblivious to what's going on, and that was a very picturesque shot of showcasing the scooter gang members. That's all that shot was. Yep. That was funny though that you brought that up. That I noticed that right when I saw it. I was like, "Ooh, that's gonna be bad."
And you know what also bugged me while watching this episode? At one point, you see Black Chrysanthemum, dragging his leg after being shot in his leg, and he's hobbling, and he has to hobble to get behind the land speeder. And then in another scene, you see him running. I'm thinking, okay, realize he would have a lot of adrenaline, but still, being shot in the leg like that, he would feel it.
Mm-hmm. And my friend specifically was saying, like, you could see his leg, like, oh, his foot, your foot is not supposed to turn like that. And then suddenly he's just okay. Like, wow. I know he's resilient, but damn.
Wookiee strength.
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly.
And Amen Fate says, I was let down that Din and Cat didn't fast draw on each other. I wanted that from the moment. I knew Mando was a fast draw guy and Filoni was involved. Yeah. And, like I said, we don't know if Cad Bane is or isn't dead, but if he's dead, what a waste of his live action appearance to have him only show up in an episode and a half.
Well,
And
I
now
think
he's gone.
they could bring him back. I mean, we've seen Fennec take basically a gunshot that took out her whole abdomen and came back. And I don't know his physiology. He took one right square in the gut, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it was a killing blow. So he could come back somewhere, especially the way they're leaning on this cybernetics thing. So it seems like Cobb Vanth is going to be the fastest draw on Tatooine after this operation.
Yeah, because I didn't realize it at first that it was Cad Vanth in the Bactopod. I'll admit it.
Oh, you didn't? Who did you think it was, or did you just not know?
Well, I'm looking at it and I didn't recognize that it was the actor when I was watching it the first time or even the second time.
Okay.
And now I'm looking at it, I'm going, yeah, it is him.
Yeah, because that's why I think they were saying. Because at the end of the episode, they say, like, we're really not cut out for this. And Fennec's like, well, who can we give it to? But then that's when they go to Cobb Vanth in the back to tank, and it's like, well, he's the new marshal. What, is he going to stay a sheriff of a town with 3 buildings? I mean?
Yeah, but
so I easily see him being the marshal of Mos Espa, or are they Mos Espa? Mos Eisley?
Boba's in Mos Espa, and then Marshall.
He was in the Pelga or Freetown.
Freetown.
But I could easily see them all coming into town now that they've fought for it, and then Cobb Vanth could be the law in Freetown. Well, Freetown would now be Mos Espa, or you know what I mean? So we'll see. That's why I really was like, wow, was this supposed to be a Rangers of the New Republic show? Because that vibe, it's like, oh, I wonder if Cobb Vanth getting knocked out early was a part of a rewrite, because they didn't want, because they really could have used him.
So I'll give it a shout out to someone on, well, I guess I think he's been quoting Midnight's Edge. This guy in Neurotic's Discord, Planner Aspect. So I'll give him a shout out. I don't think he has a chance, but just so you know, it's not my idea. It's not my original thought. I didn't, I don't want to steal credit, but he was saying that he thought with, when they got rid of Cara Dune, Gina Carano from their show, Mandalorian's obviously very popular. I never watched the second season because of the Gina Carano stuff, but I really liked the first season at least. I know some people didn't like it a ton or thought it was just okay. I really liked it. But they were saying, you take her out of all their plans and stuff, that they've got to readjust something.
Yeah, I think it messed up a lot. I think she was going to be their kind of through for all the shows.
Mm-hmm. So he was saying he thinks that a lot of this was they're using Boba Fett and the Boba Fett show to kind of carry things along, trying to, connect these things, try to show how, Mando progresses, try to show how they can set up this universe that they're making after the original trilogy. Mm-hmm. So that was what he was saying, and I think it makes pretty good sense.
Oh, yeah. I can totally agree with all that.
But here's my question. Did Marshall Vance consent to being modded?
Well, I'm sure they could ask him. They could heal him probably enough. Because when you watch it, it's very clear that he gets shot in the shoulder of his shooting arm.
Mm-hmm.
So I can easily see him living from that. But yeah, we don't know what kind of work. Blasters doing damage to somebody without killing him's kind of a new thing they're introducing.
Yep. Real quick, because we have a bot. Punkwaddle, if you could please.
The time has come. Execute Order 66.
Thank you, brother.
It's excellent.
All right,
but I agree
go ahead
with
and
a lot of the. I was just saying, I agree with a lot of those points you were making, and I've kind of wondered about that the whole time. I liked Cara Dune's character. I enjoyed the dialogue. I liked the way she tied in with the guys. I thought it was fun. I enjoyed the fact that she was a female that didn't have to act like a female. Like, she could punk slap some of the men, and I liked that. It's like, quit being such a, let's put your pants on. Let's go get some work done. And I thought, I've liked her characters in other movies, and I thought she was a good fit in the series. And I thought there was I liked season 1 and season 2, both with her. And I'm still wondering how they are just going to make her disappear. I don't.
Yeah. And I think one of the big things too that a lot of people talk about, that you have these these female actors with what's it called? What do they say? Very accommodating stunt doubles. You can tell, like, hey, this lady's 100 pounds, 150 pounds. She's knocking out 250 pound muscle men. When the first time you meet Gina and they get into that fight with Mando, it's believable. Like, she's got the build. She looks strong. When she's taking on Mando in that, was it episode 4 of season 1? Or maybe it was episode 3. Again, I'm a little mixed up. But like, when he's taking him on, it's like, yeah, she looks like she could take someone out.
It was episode 4 of season 1 of Mando.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like she looks like she can hang with the guys. She, like, if you're talking about a strong female character that looks convincing, she was it. It made sense when she did. And they got
I remember that fight and being blown away by that fight, because one of the first things that happens is she actually punches him straight in the helmet. And I was like, why she? I was like, you think, why she punch him in the helmet? And I'm like, she knew she could punch him in the helmet so hard that it's still gonna mess with him. And she didn't try to hurt him. She just fought him like he didn't even have the armor on. And she kind of whooped him real quick there,
Yeah, she did.
But she's, and that was the first time when I was like, oh, are they going to really introduce this hand-to-hand style combat into Star Wars?
But see, also, like you said, because it was Gina Carano and because of her background, it was believable.
We've even seen her in the other movies, and she's always that tough. I mean, the last one I saw her in was she was fighting Colossus in Deadpool, and it's like, and of course she's not. Colossus, but that's a believable fight. She's a hardcore enough of a female persona that you're like, okay, I could believe she could get one over on Colossus. He's a puffball, man. The guy tries to be too nice.
Right. and she is, I mean, she is beautiful, absolutely. But she's also a bigger woman. She's got muscles. She's like,
Well, she's had that fighting background forever, so she's built for it.
And she's got like a thick midsection. Like, she looks like someone you're like, I don't want to square up with her. She looks like someone who's formidable while still being feminine.
Yep.
Yes. I think as a male observing from the outside, I fully agree with your perspective. And
we're not observing the outside too much, you know.
Well, from like, because Kathleen Kennedy was obviously looking at her like, oh, she's too butch, but as men, I looked at her going, wow, that's a strong female character, not a strong female like she looks like a man, but it was a believable. Yes, I believe her when she did that. And like you were mentioning the fight scene, and if you've seen any of the behind the scenes footage, there's the episode where she has to actually pick up the Mandalorian and drag him into a building closer in the second season. And she did that herself. And the guy's in full costume, and it's like,
right.
If I saw that in person, I'd be like, whoa, dude, I'm super impressed.
You're on my side.
Impressed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Get in the fight. I want you on my side.
That's awesome. But yeah, she's totally believable. Very still super feminine. She's got that super sparkly smile. But yeah, when she clenches up those fists, I love those pictures that they show when she's fighting with Mando. And it's like, it's funny because she's got the same stance as the Mandalorian, but it's probably the guy that does the stunts in the suit at that time. It's not Pedro Pascal, and their stance is almost the same. And it's like, because she's got that background. She knows how to fight. She knows how to. She doesn't need to make it look like she can. She just stands like she's really going to fight. So it's very impressive. And yeah, I don't know how. I can't believe they can reintroduce the character with a new actress.
No, there's no way they could do that.
Don't think they can make it work.
And at this point, I don't see Gina Carano coming back.
No.
There's no way, no matter what they offered her, I don't think she would come back.
I think the only way that she would come back is if she got Disney to fully capitulate, and they're never going to do that. Like, unless they're issuing, because if Disney issues, I think it'd be the right move. But if Disney issues retractions, and they say, we're sorry, we lied about this, we're sorry about this, Gina didn't do anything wrong, it's our fault, and we're hiring her back, then I think she would do it. And I think also, like, people like me, after Disney did that, I'm like, well, forget this. I'm not watching Marvel. I'm not watching Star Wars. And for the most part, I did watch the new Spider-Man, but I guess that's Sony. So I'm counting that as different, which is maybe just me copping out. But
no, it's not a cop out, because if you've watched Marvel in recent years, then you see where it was under Paramount, and then Marvel Studios getting sold to Disney, and how they added one humor moment after another. You can tell the difference, because I was even telling a friend who still hasn't seen No Way Home. In the first 13 to 15 minutes, you can tell where Marvel had their hands in it. And then after that, you can tell where Sony took control.
Well, I think that's the big thing, too. I think that's, related to my helmet. I love Guardians of the Galaxy. It's my favorite Marvel movie, no question. But I think that they took the. I think they saw how well it did, saw how much people liked it, and because it was funny, it had the humor, and like, oh, let's incorporate that everywhere. Well, so that doesn't work everywhere.
No.
You know, and that's kind of what I feel like DC kind of got into that too. They see how much people like Batman. They like that dark Batman, Chris Nolan Batman. And then they're like, well, let's put that everywhere. Let's put that darkness on Superman. Like, well, you can't do that. That's not, it doesn't work for every character. It works for some characters. That wit kind of works, like it works well for Iron Man. It doesn't work well for everyone else.
No, it doesn't.
Everyone has their thing. Like Black Widow, I didn't watch it, but I watched Az's whole review where he's pretty much going scene to scene. So I feel like when I watch those, it's like I feel like I've mostly watched it. Like they show those joke scenes, and it's like, well, that doesn't make sense to be here. This is a serious movie. It could be good, and then you just throw this silly joke that doesn't land and goes on way too long.
The way they do that now, that I think that is a way cinema has evolved over the past 30 years, because before all this stuff came out, they had specific genres. It was like your movie was a comedy, or it was an action movie, or it was a drama. There was no mixing. And then a lot of the movies that came out in the 80s were action comedies, or drama comedies, or sci-fi fantasy, sci-fi comedy. And then other stuff would come out and they didn't know how to categorize it anymore, because they were infusing a little bit of comedy into everything. Like, cop movies were just cop movies until Lethal Weapon came out. And when the Lethal Weapon came out, when the Lethal Weapon series came out, that introduced comedy into the action genre. I mean, Die Hard, it was a series right in along at the same time, introducing comedy into whatever genre it is. But now we're in this era where they're forcing it. And it's like you're saying, these jokes don't work. And it's I really think we are in that experimentation era right now, where we're getting flooded with media, just all the different sources, and there's so much and so many people have input that we need the good ones that rise to the top again. We're in a turnover phase, and this is the first time we've really seen this, because we've had a lot of explosion. We had the explosion of cable, and then the explosion of pay-per-view, and then the explosion of YouTube, and then one after the other, after the other, after the other. And now I think we're inundated now, and we're just getting mediocre, unfortunately. We need some people need to rise up, and the sources have changed. People are getting found out from YouTube and things like that now. People are getting pulled right out of high school to do major projects and things. So we have to wait a few years to see that come out. We're just in a time right now where we need something new. We almost need a new way of doing it.
Very true.
I think what you brought up, because I was going to say something, but you brought it up, so perfect time. I think we just have there's so much copying going on.
Yes.
Like when I'm saying, they pretty much said, hey, this humor worked in Guardians of the Galaxy, which was a new, that's not how superhero films were, and it broke the mold. And so they're like, let's just put this in everything. Like, well, that doesn't work. You brought up Die Hard. That was a very different action movie at the time. It did have comedy, but it's also, like they said, in an era where everyone looks like roided up, all the action heroes look like roided up junkies. The most badass one is the that's the dad from Sixth Sense.
the normal guy. And that was something at the time when they cast Bruce Willis in that movie. Nobody took it seriously.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, you built an action movie around a guy who doesn't do action? Because back then there weren't actors who did TV and movies. You kind of, everybody was in a box, you know, and the things he did were all comedy. He was all comedy until Die Hard. And Die Hard changed his entire career.
Mm-hmm. And he's a great actor too. But like what I was saying with that is, after Die Hard came out, even, you know, copying stuff isn't new. Because after Die Hard came out, you know, how many copies of Die Hard did they make? Including everyone jokes its own sequels.
that was the new thing. Let's have an accident or whatever, but it was always in a skyscraper after Die Hard came out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think
the same old trope over and over again.
I think the thing is, like, a lot of those copies still were good. Like, you know, Die Hard 2 is just a, hey, let's make Die Hard 1, but now we're in an airport. But, like, it's still a really great movie. It's not like if you copy it, it's guaranteed to be bad. But it's like you have those small scenarios. Oh, this movie came out and everyone wanted to copy it. And that's throughout history. Nowadays, that's pretty much every movie we get is just a copy of this movie that did good, a reboot of this movie that did good. Well, it's just, you know, before, people copied things. Now it's the only thing people do.
Yeah. And even, and again, you know, at that time, the 80s was notorious for horrible sequels also.
Yes.
So, and to be honest, Die Hard 2 is one of those movies people don't give it a lot of credit. And there's a lot of movies that came out in the 80s. RoboCop 2, you know, led right into the thing. Back then, they were making sequels to movies that got big money. And most of the sequels did not do good. Only a few lived kind of through the 80s. Die Hard was one of them, you know, but it definitely had a resurgence with Die Hard 3. Because Die Hard 2 is easily probably the worst one. Of the first three, it's easily the one that got the most flack, for sure. And there was a lot of series like that had problems with it. Rambo, the 2 and or 3 and 4, people were over it by then. You know, it's just like, okay, quit making it over and over and over. And now it's kind of the same idea, but other people are copying them. It's not the same companies coming out with the sequels. Other companies are deciding to buy them and pick them up. But it's a similar, it's really close to what we did. You know, it's almost like a cycle now.
Well, look at the Terminator franchise and how that's been run into the ground.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And they were really trying with that one. It seemed like Christian Bale wanted to get involved because he wanted to make some good movies.
Mm-hmm.
But I think at that time was the beginning of almost an oversaturation, you know, because the Transformers movies and the Terminator movies, and there was a lot of, you know, cybernetic and a lot of CGI going on.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when the companies were leaning on it too much. So they figured out, oh, we thought these would be good. We thought this is what people wanted. And they, you know, we've been in this experimentation stage for so long. And some IPs have been in it longer. You know, Marvel, not until Iron Man, Marvel did not really know what they were doing. Those first X-Men movies were not very well received.
Neither was the first 2 Fantastic Four movies.
Exactly, yeah. And I enjoy all those movies.
Honestly, I enjoy all of them except for what's X3? Last Stand? I didn't like that.
Yeah.
I love.
I mean,
especially the second one. Oh, gosh.
But
Sorry,
as a fan watching these movies, like I love X-Men comic books, all that stuff. I knew the lore and I knew all the stories, and it's like a lot of the people are going through it now with Star Wars. It's like, well, I've been going through the movies not matching up with the comics and the stories for 30 years. You know, it's just this new generation's getting used to it, and they're like, how come Boba can't match what he does in the comic books? And it's like, well, a lot of people just don't do that. There's different people working on.
And I do want to say hello to GMC. Welcome, brother. Always nice to see you. And he has a few things he would like to say. Book of Boba Fett bored me to tears. They need to bring Greedo back. Pretend that laser blast didn't kill him. No one has ever really gone in Star Wars. Same with Star Trek.
Yep.
Yeah, I lost interest after the follow-up to the Christian Bale Terminator didn't have a proper sequel. Yep.
Yeah.
Marvel has lost the plot now, though. They had a good run for a while, but most of their movies are trash now.
It seems like a lot of these things, like they said, like, you know, Gary Nirvana said a lot. It feels like, sorry, I have the hiccups. They try to make these things with a formula. You can't make movies and shows with a formula. You know, it might prevent flops for a bit, but it's not going to grow your brand. You have to, you know, you can't make creative things like an assembly line. It's just not how it works.
No, you have to expand it. You have to grow. You have to add to it. And that's what Star Wars isn't doing right now. They're not adding to what George Lucas created. They're pretty much disassembling what he created and putting a new foundation and saying, this is Star Wars now. Same with Star Trek. Same with Doctor Who.
Because it just seems like they were rushing this. They wanted it to be its own thing. Like, I guess it was supposed to be a movie, so they wanted to make a series out of it. But they literally could have shoved these into The Mandalorian. And we would have been like, wow, that's weird. The Mandalorian wasn't even in this episode. But he would have only done it 2 out of 14 episodes, not 2 out of 7. You know, it would have been looked at completely differently. I just think the way it got presented, it could have been done so many different ways. You know, they're rushing to fix it and they're rushing to still push it out. And should they? And this, you know, it shows because us as viewers have so many easy fixes for it. It's not like we're telling them to remake the whole thing. It's like, oh, you guys could have just done even the fewest little things here and there to change a whole perspective of way so many people took it.
Yeah, I feel like that's been Star Wars' problem too for a long time. Like, I do like to think of myself as a creative person. I got good ideas, I just can't write them down. I'm working on that part. But like, there's so many things with the sequel trilogy where you're like, well, I don't like this whole idea, really, but you can think of a way of like, oh, you know, you can think of a better reason why Luke's on this island. You can think of a better reason why, you know, Ben turned and all this stuff. Like, there's so many things where it's like, yeah, you know, even if you don't like it, there's ways you could have went with their framework and just changed a thing here or there and just make it so much better. That's, I think, what's frustrating. It's not just that, you know, it's not what you expect. It's that even if it isn't what we expect, we could make it at least stomachable.
Yeah. And honestly, as a fan of Star Wars, I don't know if I would be comfortable even if they did it perfect and made it completely 100% believable, I don't know if I want to see that part of Luke's journey. I don't know if I want to see him go through so much loss to where he just completely breaks.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know if that might be too. How many people is he going to lose? What does happen? I mean, what would they have to do to make it believable at this point to make Star Wars fans happy? And at that point, we might look back at it and go, I don't know. I could have done without knowing that.
Yeah, because
You
for
know?
me, and I'm only speaking for me. I'm not speaking for you guys or anybody in the chat or anybody who watches this, after the live stream. But for me, there are mysteries about characters and places in series that I don't always have to know everything about. Leave it a mystery. But no, we have to solve everything. We have to know about everything nowadays. No, there's nothing wrong with a good mystery.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, you go ahead.
That's what I think. What sucks about this whole Boba Fett show is because that's kind of when you say people need to stay a mystery. That's kind of like Boba Fett's almost like the king of that. Like why he was cool is because you're like, dude, there's so much that we don't know about him. Like I remember growing up, and my kind of generation, at least the age I was growing up in, we were, some of us were too young to even watch the prequels in theaters. I think I was like 4 or 5 when the Phantom Menace came out. But like, even that aside, so we're pretty removed from Boba Fett. That's all we could talk about. He was the cool character because he had all that mystery around him. And what sucks about that too is he had so much mystery around him that like you could explain bits and pieces and still like keep the mystery intact. It's not like something like The Doctor where it's like, hey, it's simple. Don't talk about this thing. And they did anyway. But like there's Boba Fett has so much around him. It's like, yeah, if you revealed like bits and pieces of it, he still keeps that aura of mystery. But the way they've done it, it's like, well, they're that's gone. Which just stinks. So that's part of the reason, I didn't necessarily watch it because I'm like, I'm just gonna pretend that he's going on the story that I made for my head.
Well, there's a lot of time that passed. The Book of Boba, even with the flashbacks, it's only a few years. So there was still all the time from the Clone Wars that we see him until he gets to this point. And so basically all that stuff that we know of Boba Fett, so he did in like a 15-year span. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, that's impressive. Yes, we wanted to see that Boba Fett, but I can see why he changed his mind. I get it. I mean, but if you put, like, I don't know all the stories. I did not read all the comics and everything. I just know this guy never lost.
Yeah.
And constantly going out, but he's going to get wounded. He gets abandoned. His father gets killed, and then he gets abandoned, then he gets abandoned, then he gets abandoned, then he gets imprisoned, then he gets abandoned, He's never had anything. So for that whole time, from the last time we see him in Clone Wars cartoon, animated series, to when we see him now, he's been on his own, knowing I can't trust anybody. I can't even talk to somebody. My inner thoughts are my own. And he's just torturing himself probably for 15 years or whatever. I don't know, how everybody's thoughts can be, but I could only imagine how desolate of an existence living in space would be.
Yeah.
And choosing that kind of lifestyle. You know, and I'm not trying to justify anything. Like, I wanted to see badass Boba Fett as much as anybody, you know. I was a fan of the guy as soon as I saw him. He could have not had any lines in that movie, and I still would have went out and got his action figure as a kid.
I mean, one of the most impactful lines that he says in Empire Strikes Back is, "He's no good to me, dead."
Yep.
Mhm. Yeah.
You know, and we got to think, hey, you know, but without Boba Fett, we don't get the Mandalorian,
No.
you know, and so I'll give that credit there. You know, it's like the Mandalorian's doing all the stuff we want to see Boba Fett do. We're not getting to see Boba Fett do it, but we are getting a good Mandalorian series. Boba Fett didn't really end the way we want to see Boba Fett's story end, but I don't necessarily think it's over. I don't think he's gonna stay on there. Yes, those are his people, but he knows he can't run a town. That's not his thing. It's not his bag, baby.
Yeah, baby, yeah.
But they could have another season. I think we'll see them all back. Fennec Shand kind of made me, her end sequence in the finale made me wonder, because she just kind of cleans house and then sneaks out of the building, and it's like, is okay. So it almost made me think, it's like, well, they definitely made Fennec Shand the power player for Boba in this series.
Yeah, they did. They did.
Mhm. I thought it'd be cool at first, because I was like, when they said, you know, Boba's gonna kind of take over, I thought that could be cool, especially because, like, I guess in my brain, I thought it could make sense. Just because it's kind of like, yeah, you know, you have this guy who's been betrayed by everyone, you know, he's ordered around and all that stuff. And if I remember correctly, like the whole thing with Django and him was like, you know, Django wants him to have a better life than he does. He wants him to be different than all, you know, him and all the clones and stuff. I think that's correct. I don't know. Is that would you say that's a good interpretation of what?
I would agree. Django is his father, and he trains him to be a bounty hunter. But as a father, he wanted a son. He wanted a child. So he is going to protect his child. He's not going to want his child to go out and do stuff thinking he's going to kill himself. You know, I mean, there was a love there between Django and Boba that we saw in the movies, even though we saw so little time of it between them.
Yeah. But I was just
Still there?
Oh, I thought it was me.
thinking of.
I thought it was me
Oh.
at first.
Oh, there he is.
Hello. Sorry, I guess I cut out.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, like, I thought it made sense for this, you know, kind of badass bounty hunter who's been betrayed by all these people and is thinking, hey, look, you know, why am I the one always taking the orders? You know, I'm better than all these guys. I'm the one that they call because they need me. Why don't I take control, because I can do it better than them? Like, you know, I'll stop getting in all these bad situations and all that stuff.
Mhm.
That's what, to me, I thought, oh, that sounds pretty cool. Like, that sounds like.
The story made complete sense to me. The mafia mob boss kind of thing, you know, it was like, okay, Boba's always been an
A
enforcer.
good premise.
You know, he's always been the guy that did the dirty work for the big bosses.
Mm-hmm.
So he knows a lot. Why wouldn't he at some point think, I could do this so much easier than these fat slobs?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mhm.
half the people he worked for were super powerful and wouldn't waste their time doing the job.
No.
And then the other people were too weak and they were incapable of doing it. So he was taking jobs from people he considered scum. No matter how strong or powerful they were, he looked down on everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So I just think it was like the enforcer of a big time mob boss. You know, the mob boss got taken out, and he was like, well, I can do this. None of these guys can push me around. You know, I know all the buttons to push. I know all the weak spots. And he was basically walking around saying, I want to rule with respect. And the whole time his hands on his gun, you know, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't really do the power play. Like he didn't, the watermonger that obviously had an attitude with Boba siding with the street gang. They could have played that out. You know, the watermonger does something else, and then Boba's got to shove him up against the wall and be like, hey, buddy, I told you, you need to straighten up or you're not going to do business. You know, what normal, you know, street security would be. But they didn't really go into any of that. And we got those 2 Mandalorian episodes instead.
Yep.
I don't know
But
why.
yeah, you know, getting back to that watermonger melting from Office Space.
Yeah, I burn this whole place down.
That's true.
And I want to say hello to the lovely Sherry. Welcome, Sherry.
Oh, hello.
Sherry. Hello, Sherry. No, I just thought of, I don't know why I thought of this, but when you said, you know, I want to rule with respect, just come up to, you know, I rule with respect. Hey, you know my, have you seen my, flamethrower that comes in my arm? I called it respect.
Yeah. No, that was because that's totally a mob boss move. Like, I respect what you're saying with his 2 big, huge gorilla dudes right behind him, staring down at the guy. You know, it's like, oh yeah, I see why everybody respects you because you got all these thugs working for you.
Mm-hmm. Well, the funny thing is, on an episode of Pop Talk, the Smoking Patriot and I took a look at the teaser trailer for the Book of Boba Fett, and the 2 of us couldn't help but do a Marlon Brando impression, going, "Yeah, my name's Boba Fett, and everybody's gonna learn that this is my territory, and I'm the Godfather here."
I remember that one.
Okay. Everybody's gonna understand that you don't mess with me, capiche?
These are my people.
Yeah.
No, I was really thinking they were gonna lean into the kind of Sopranos and Scarface and everything, the way they leaned into the desperado cowboy way on The Mandalorian. I thought they were gonna do like just really hardcore lean into it.
Yeah.
Even when the Mandalorian episode came on, I think it's episode 4.
Yeah, episode 5, The Return of the Mandalorian.
Yeah, they show the Mandalorian going into that butcher shop. And I was just like, wow, this isn't very Star Wars, but this is total mob boss. Like they walked into a butcher shop, everybody's all bloody, you know, they're about to do business, you know.
Mando takes the Darksaber and slices the one guy in half.
I know. I couldn't believe they showed so many shots, because the way when Ahsoka was on the show, it seemed like they went out of their way not to show her cutting through people.
They did.
But in this episode, they weren't hiding anything. It was like, nope, it's all out in the open.
Yeah, no holds barred.
Yeah, that was hold on. Sorry, can you guys hear me?
I can still hear you.
Yes.
Okay. I had to fix the settings. I think I was doing my from my headset because I didn't have time to set up my microphone. So, but like, yeah, in the first season of the Mandalorian, there was so many times they're just like I get why they did it because Disney's doing everything PG-13 at least, but when the guy gets cut in half by the door,
Yeah.
like, they don't show that, but I'm just sitting there like that was a great scene. I loved it.
The edit was really clean. I was like, wow, they were pretty graphic, even though they didn't show. They showed about as much as they could and still give you the idea.
But that was the thing, like it was still great. But I'm like, man, this would be great if they just showed this. Like if they showed you the brutality. And I know people will say like, oh, you can't expect them to do that, but I remember the prequels. They had Count Dooku's head bouncing like a basketball.
Yeah,
like, it's not like violence is it never happens in Star Wars. So, but I get it.
Those were all moments I thought they were really pushing. It's like, wow, they're really seeing what they can get away with.
Yep, pushing that envelope.
Well, and I still say, I know I might be in the minority, but I wish they didn't. Like it's still crazy badass. Like I said, even these nitpicks I'm making, I still love the Mando season 1. I was the first television I've watched in a long time. Well, besides like The Expanse, that I remember I'm like, holy cow, this is great. Like I gotta keep watching.
I was hooked in episode 1.
Yep. But I still remember when he's fighting the Jawas, when he's like it was cool and kind of funny when he just like vaporizes them.
Yeah,
I still thought it was good, but I'm like, man, like it would just be so much more brutal if he's just like blasting bowling ball sized holes in these little Jawas, just like bam.
See, those are the things, like those things. When you see the Jawa, no matter what you enjoy the movie for, that particular thing is what Star Wars is. It's like you will giggle of shock. You're like, oh wow, they just shot that. Wow, he's gone.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like scaring you just enough to where you laugh at it. It's real. They're just riding that line. It's realism, and they're like, well, we can't show them splatter. Well, they'll just poof in a thing of air. Well, it'll be fine. The experimentation that they're doing is right on what they need to be doing. They're right. They're on the right track with Mandalorian, man.
Yeah,
that they are.
I mean, everything, the comedy, the stories, the characters, just everything, even the ones people don't like. It's like, that's still Star Wars. It's a different Star Wars because we're dealing with totally different people that are dealing with their lives. They're a little more separated from the Empire. They're a little more normal, They actually most of these people have jobs. They're not rebels like we're used to. So
yep.
And there's that was one thing that I thought was it was pretty, that whole scene was badass but also kind of funny, where at the beginning when Mando's bringing all those contracts into, I don't remember his name.
Oh, Grief Karga.
Yeah, and he's like, here you go, Imperial credits, just like you said, And I don't know if you heard, Empire doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
It was because it made sense in a serious context, but also just kind of made you chuckle.
Yes, exactly. It's like a real world thing. It's like if you went to another country and you're like, oh crap, all I have are these pesos.
Yeah.
It's just real world. Life's the struggle, right?
Yeah, and so much of that too is there's a lot of interesting parts of Star Wars, but one of the most interesting parts has always been that kind of criminal underworld, just because they show it, but they don't ever, like, they don't really go into it.
Yes, we've never had our gangster shows. Yeah,
like you see, obviously very prevalent in the original trilogy, but like it's not like they they don't lay it all out for you. They leave a lot that you're wondering about.
No, yeah,
And
even if you watch the Star Wars Clone Wars the animated series, there's a lot involved with the Hutts and the bounty hunters and things like that. But that's not what the story is about. It's like that gets added to the story we're following because we're focused on the Jedi and the Senate and those things. So it's like the story is not there, but it keeps creeping in every once in a while. And
that's why.
and it's all Palpatine doing it. See, he's using like the worst of the worst so that he can't get found out. The people that just, I don't care if they die, they won't be able to identify me if they die. And the people that are good enough to keep living don't know who I am. So we're good there.
That's and that, I think that's one reason why. I mean, everyone was upset when that Star Wars 1313.
Yeah, I remember when that got announced.
Yeah, I was excited about it.
G4 was in its heyday back then, wasn't it?
Oh yeah.
X-Play and oh gosh.
They were on the top of their game, no pun intended, but they were on top of their game.
They were great. And I remember they make this big deal about Olivia Munn and Morgan Webb. I remember when both of them started on their shows, and they were not good. they couldn't deliver the news. They couldn't read the teleprompter very well, comfortably. They weren't comfortable with the cast and everybody yet. But I saw both of them become some of the best journalists. Like, I believed their opinions. We saw them playing the games and saw them working with the people around them and stuff. And it didn't hurt that they were attractive, but the quality of that show was why I watched it.
And they too, they obviously developed, but when they hired them, I mean, people didn't try to fake it. They like, you knew why they hired them.
No, and she even said it. Morgan Webb, if you've ever seen, or not Morgan Webb, I'm sorry, but Olivia Munn, if you've seen interviews with her over the years, she totally accepts that she came from kind of the nerd geekdom and got her beginning there. And I think that's awesome.
It's awesome. And it's like, yeah, she was some eye candy for sure. And
she was there. That's like where the joke comes from. Oh, wow, you're so pretty. You play video games? Oh,
yeah.
I mean,
well, even Gary from Nerdrotic said that he was at a San Diego Comic-Con the year that she was wearing the Slave Leia outfit, and he got to see her.
One of the funniest things ever.
Throughout the convention, wearing that Slave Leia outfit.
Oh my gosh!
You mean, the fire spray Leia outfit?
No. Jabba's inducted servant outfit.
Yes.
I remember that episode. I remember watching them doing E3 at that convention, and the reason she dressed up in that outfit because she knew she would look good. Yeah. It's not like she didn't want to wear it. She accepted it and she bought into it. But they did a bit on G4 that day during the convention. They would cut to her every once in a while, and she would find another person in the Leia outfit. And she'd whip out her lightsaber, and she's like, "There can be only one," and she'd go and cut them down. So it was like this running gag all day, and it's like, this is hilarious. And it's like that. She doesn't just do that because she's pretty. That was one of the. I've always remembered that because it was so funny. It's not because wow, she looked great,
Right. And that's the thing, like. They didn't try to be something they weren't. They took time to study stuff, unlike what you see now, probably. And
They were
even
the
if they weren't
forerunners of the nerd trend, man, back then. Everybody was coming out. Sorry to cut you off.
No, that's fine. But yeah, like you had so many people, like even people that wouldn't know much about something. Like I always qualify myself. Like, oh, I haven't watched this. Well, I don't know much about this, but it wasn't a big deal if you didn't know everything, as long as you're honest about it, not pretending like you do. And that's what you get now. I mean,
A lot of pretenders.
That was with
Posers.
Kevin Smith when he's like, I'm the biggest He-Man fan. And you go back in the past and it's like, yeah, I liked He-Man, but it wasn't my favorite. Like, if you would have said that, I mean, you probably, if you're advertising for a show, you probably don't want to say, like, oh, it's not my favorite. But if you just said, like, yeah, I grew up watching He-Man, I like He-Man, not just going to the next level. Oh, I'm always been the biggest fan. It's always been my favorite franchise. Like, people just want you to be honest about it and do the research. You don't need to be the super fan to get everyone excited about you.
It's like when you're doing a live stream on YouTube or, doing a video for your YouTube channel. People want to see someone who's genuine. They don't want to see someone who puts on an act the whole time they're on stream. They want someone who's real.
Exactly. No, that what I kind of sidetracked us though, but you were talking because I mentioned the convention, but you were talking about 1313. And I mentioned, yes, I remember seeing them talk about that on the release. Like when they announced it, the crowd went nuts.
That game looked
They
great.
were so excited for this. I mean, I want to say, like, I was watching The Next Generation when they were talking about this game when it came out, when it was going to come out. And so much excitement over this game. And and then they showed the gameplay, I think, at another convention. And then they announced that it was shelved. And it was just like, oh my gosh. But there has always been hype of Star Wars, not necessarily without the Jedi, but just not the high levels. We want to see where we live.
Mm-hmm.
We all
recently, sorry.
I was just going to say, we've seen the homeless city, basically kind of like Tatooine, and we've seen the rich city, Coruscant, which has the slums, and we've seen, Mandalore, which is more industrial kind of, so we need to see more planets that we can relate to. I can easily see if they ever showed us one of the construction yards for one of these ships or where they build the weapons or anything like that, I think fans would love to see those kind of Easter eggs. You don't need to plant something, just make it part of the story. It doesn't have to be some hidden gem. We'll realize it as soon as we see a planet or a ship or hear a voice on an intercom. We don't let us do that. You guys just write your story.
Well, that was beginning of Jedi Fallen Order. When you're just obviously you're a past Padawan, but you're just working on that ship, in a shipyard. You're fixing the Imperial ships up.
Yeah, exactly. And that made him immediately relatable. It's like, oh, he's just a normal kid. No parents, or if you were a single parent child or anything like that, it made him instantly relatable to all ages.
And I think on that note, guys, I am going to go ahead and wrap up this particular live stream. Whoopa, if you could stick around, because we will start another live stream here shortly, and we will be talking about the latest news that was released today from Major League Baseball Commissioner Rob Manfred.
I'm going to have to jump over there and listen to this. I'm curious.
You want to be out? I can send you a brand new link, brother.
Well, I don't think I know enough about baseball to be part of it, but I want to hear what's going on
Okay.
because I want to know.
All right, brother.
Oh, you will know.
Inquiring
go
minds
ahead
want to know.
and wrap this up, and then I'll send you both a brand new link.
Good talking with you guys.
Good talking with everybody. And before I wrap this up, I do want to say thank you to those who stopped by. I want to thank the lovely Sherry for stopping by. Thank you very much. I also want to thank Games, Movies, and Comics, GMC for short. Thank you, brother. I always appreciate seeing you here. I also want to thank Punk Waddle for stopping by. Thank you. I also want to thank A-Man Fate for stopping by. Thank you, brother. Always nice seeing you as well. And of course, Whoopa, thank you very much. And the Pat I Want to Be, thank you, brother. Really appreciate it. And
Always, anytime.
that's it. So, until we start our next stream talking about the latest update with the Major League Baseball lockout, this has been Mike for Pacific414 Episode Review. I do want to ask you guys real quick, for this stream, do you have anything you want to promote?
Well, I know, I don't know who knows strike 721, strike underscore 721. We're going to be doing a Lego mock build, make own creation.
Mhm.
We're going to do Lego lightsabers.
Okay.
So be on the lookout for that. If I have a date coming up, I'll get it to you as soon as possible, or I'll put it in the chat or whatever. But anybody interested in that, look up strike underscore 721 under his Talking Bricks channel.
All right.
But
That sounds
it
great.
for me.
How about you, Whoopa?
Well, I guess I've got my. I don't have much going on right now because I'm still. A new Pokemon game came out, so some of my my streaming plans got sidelined for undisclosed reasons. But I am doing my streams every Whoopa Wednesday. For Pokemon Red, I've got 10 up now, so next Wednesday we got number 11, and I think we're gonna go into the Safari Zone, so that'd be fun.
Very nice. And as far as this channel, there will be a live stream tomorrow, and it will be Friday Night Frontiers once again. We will be playing Star Trek Online, and we will be multi-streaming with Spock's Friday nights tomorrow as well. And also on Saturday, there will be a special edition of Pacific414 Pop Talk. I will be joined by a special guest, Pop Culture Mechanic. This will be the first stream the two of us have ever been on, and we will be talking about this.
One shall stand, one shall fall. Why throw away your life so recklessly?
We will be talking about Generation 1 Transformers. But speaking of G1 Transformers, this is kind of how us fans feel about these companies and the way they're handling the franchises right now.
Oh, how it pains me to do this.
Wait, I still function.
Wanna bet?
That's right. We're Megatron and they're Starscream.
I'm not dead yet.
Nope, we're not dead yet. We get reformatted and we come back in a more powerful form.
Oh my goodness.
All right. So guys, I will send you the new invite here shortly. And to everybody else, thank you all very much. Really appreciate it. Until next time, this has been Mike for Pacific414 Episode Review. Thank you all. Have a good night and take care.